Okay, so here's my assessment. The vaccination debate consists of two groups of parents who each side is totally convinced that the other group is doing something terrible to their children. Right? That if you're pro-vaccination, and my sons have been vaccinated, you think that the folks who aren't vaccinating are putting their kids at risk for measles or other terrible diseases.
They're trying to kill your children.
Well, okay.
They should call nationwide.
And the flip side is I assume that the anti-vaccination folks are basically like, wait a minute, you're putting substances that you don't really know about into your child, right? You're just taking the assumption that there's not going to be, even if you don't subscribe to the whole vaccines cause autism theory, of which there is absolutely no proof of whatsoever, the risk of side effects, the fears about how long has this been going into kids, are there long-term, effects and stuff like that. Everybody has an opinion.
I wish you could see my face right now as he's explaining
There's
all
a supremely skeptical look there, yes. But basically it comes down to, I vaccinated my kids, so I'm a better person than you.
Oh.
And then, of course, the flip side is, no, I didn't vaccinate my kids. I'm a better person than you. And this is so personal to people.
And it's also involving people's children. And you're not going to find people who bring out the long knives for much of anything more than their children. And again, I hadn't really thought about it as I'm a better parent versus you're a better parent. I've seen so many statistics thrown around this week, but it looks like about roughly 8% of the population did not get vaccinated by choice.
This is for the measles, yes.
Yeah, for the measles. By choice, for whatever reason, whether that be religious or, whatever theory. Is that what we're calling it? Philosophical.
That's what we're saying. So I don't,
That's good. That's a much better word than the word I was going to use. So philosophical objections. My thing is this, we know that these diseases are real, they're scary, etc. And that's why we have these miracles that we call the vaccinations. Now, is it irony, because I've been asking all week, how the grammar Nazis are about things. Is it or is it not irony that the Playboy bunny, Centerfold, who started all of this, has a child that is vaccinated?
Jenny McCarthy, you mean?
Correct.
I think also the other great irony, of course, and yes, there are people who would make the argument that Jenny McCarthy ranks among modern history's worst monsters, right up there with Pol Pot and Stalin and groups like that, arguing that because she has taken this idea
influence
and taken it mainstream, and I don't feel you want to feel sympathy for someone who has a child with autism, and they're kind of, why did this happen? Why
isn't that where it all comes from? I mean, with even her own curiosity, and I'm not going to bash Jenny McCarthy any more than I already have, because the real problem is not that Jenny McCarthy said it. The real problem is that people believed it without doing the research on their own. And here's the thing. One of the best arguments I actually heard was earlier this week. It's actually on the Today Show, and Tamron Hall said it. And I don't know if she was talking about herself or a friend of hers, and I think she was actually speaking about a friend, and said that she was not allowed to send her child to school with peanut butter and jelly sandwiches because there are so many peanut allergies. And yet now they're telling her that they're going to send kids that haven't been vaccinated for measles.
Measles is fine, just no peanut products.
Right.
Okay?
And so, and I can understand, as someone, I don't have any small children now, but the idea of, all the rules and regulations of what those kids are allowed to have every day with them. I mean, they have to take their allergy medicines in and get those approved and all the things that go into it. And then you've got these, but these kids, they haven't been vaccinated for measles, but that's okay. Bring them on in.
The other thing is that there are very few people who would argue that vaccination is a bad thing. And the ones who do, yes, they deserve the mockery. There was someone who was quoted in the New York Times who said, I just don't feel like vaccination would be right for my family.
Well, I'm sorry, what?
That was I'm quoting it directly. They just don't feel it would be the right choice.
I see. And in this feeling part, because again, this is where I get to the rip off the labels and let God sort it out part of things, is that if they don't feel like they need vaccinated, how do you think they will feel if they end up with the actual measles?
I was going to say, are you feeling anything on your skin right now because you chose not to do that?
Because, people think of measles, they think of a rash. Dude, Google it. It is not just a rash. It is some scary stuff. And so I find it really difficult to believe that any parent would want to risk that for the child, even now, knowing what we know and, the study's been debunked, et cetera. Even if you have concerns, I think you would be wanting to keep your child away from places where they could be exposed to it if you know that they haven't been vaccinated. So homeschool your children starts to look like a better idea. Maybe there's a market, me being a capitalist, maybe there's a market for schools for kids that aren't vaccinated.
Ooh, They all go in there in little bubbles.
teeny tiny
giant plastic
exactly.
bubbles protect them
I'm saying they have charter schools for everything else.
From what you're saying, the first thing, the conclusion I come to is that the pro-vaccination forces, those who very much disagree with this conspiracy theory idea that vaccinations cause autism, clearly they need their own centerfold.
Yes,
because
they do.
We're not
Battle of the bunnies.
Yeah, I was going to say, we're not going to pay attention to the American Pediatric Association or New England Journal of Medicine.
Oh, pshaw! What do those people know?
Pamela Anderson or somebody else
have they posed nude? Have they posed nude?
I haven't checked on that, Mickey.
Well, if they haven't posed nude, then what do they know about the human body?
There you go. Yeah, exactly. And then the flip side. Now, here's the thing. So, what is the other great message that you always get every fall from doctors, from your TV show hosts, from?
You mean the one I ignore?
So you're an anti-flu vaxxer.
I am an anti-flu vaxxer. Yes.
Don't cough on me.
I haven't gotten a flu shot. Oh God, it's been over 10 years. Okay. And the last time that I got the flu shot, I ended up getting the flu later in the year, not caused by the shot, but it was just a different strain, which is what happens with most cases. Yeah. And so I was like, no, I'm not doing this. This is stupid.
I was going to say that as somebody who regularly gets the flu shot and has had friends who have gotten the flu, their kids have gotten the flu. Thankfully, everything's turned out okay, but. Because there's 14, 15 different strains, and they give you a shot that they think can stop maybe 4 of them, and maybe give you a little better resistance against a couple of the other ones. People look at it and say, "Well, this doesn't do any good," and they kind of lose. And apparently
what I don't like is people comparing the two. We're talking about the flu and
true. No, my sense is that if people have a sense that one vaccine didn't have much of an impact. They begin to think, well, how much are any of these vaccines? What are these? Do these doctors really know what they're talking about?
Well, there's probably that train of thought. But the thing that has made me the most angry throughout this entire thing is the mere fact that people are so stupid that we have to rely on the government to tell them to get their child vaccinated, because these are deadly, life-threatening, maiming diseases. And the reason that it's mandatory is because some people won't do it unless the government tells them to. And the thing I don't fully understand is, how are these kids going to college? Like, when I went to college, I remember having to show not only all of those shots, but some kind of Hep shot and a booster shot and all these other shots just to get into school. So how's that work?
You basically have to be a pincushion.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I think and here's the thing. Almost everybody in the political realm would say, vaccinate your kids, vaccinate your kids. Where I think some folks on the Republican side have gotten a little nervous about is if you say, no, I'm not going to refuse my kid.
You don't want the government being able to mandate what you put in your body.
Say, do we want people chasing each other around?
Yeah, but is this, again, hills to die on. If people weren't so stupid, we wouldn't have this problem. But, if you could just say, I'd be willing to wager, if you put out pictures of what people look like, the measles and the mumps. And this is a disease that we went out and we destroyed it. We decimated it, like other things that we supposedly have decimated. We actually did destroy this, and now it's back. Now, the reason that we have – and this is the other thing that kills me because, of course, people read 30 seconds of what they really want to know. And then they stop paying attention or going any deeper into thought. But, the reality of the situation is there are a lot of what people would consider developed nations that don't have the same access to these miracle vaccines that we have. So, we talk about where this could possibly have started. Well, it could have started damn near anywhere but here. But it grows like wildfire here. Yeah. It grows like wildfire here amongst those who are not vaccinated.
And you guys,
so that's what you gotta know.
People are missing a sense of history. I read a Ben Franklin letter not long ago where he described his nervousness at sending his youngest son off for an inoculation against one of those diseases 200 years ago, because inoculation science was nowhere near as advanced as it is now, and the inoculations did regularly kill children and give them diseases. So it was a chance they took, and they were congratulating each other for living in an age when they had the ability to, even with mathematical odds, inoculate their kids against these diseases, because they would surely get them if they weren't. And I think we've gone past
and we take it for granted.
The historical age when an inoculation was this huge, wonderful new blessing that everyone rushed out to get to preserve their children. And now our age, we've forgotten about all that, and we've lost our perspective on it.
The idea of a epidemic or pandemic, particularly since the Ebola virus came and while it's still a problem over in Africa, ended up not being as terrible a disaster as a lot of folks kind of suspected it was going to be.
Another big outrage media. Woo!
Well, do you create this Y2K effect in which people begin to not believe?
But at least with Y2K, that was for a whole year and for one event. This is like every 48 to 96 hours, there's some kind of new outrage out there. And I think people are exhausted. I know I am, which is why in the next segment, we're not going to be talking about any of this.
No, this is wrapping up the serious segment part of the program of the Jim and Mickey Show. I'll just remind everyone, go out, get your kids vaccinated, particularly for German measles, which, as we all know, are disciplined and highly organized. I am Jim Garrity, that's Mickey White, and we'll be right back after this.
It certainly is a big bun.
It's a very big bun.
Big, fluffy bun.
It's a very big, fluffy bun.
Where's the beef?
Some hamburger places give you a lot less beef on a lot of bun.
Where's the beef?
At Wendy's, we serve a hamburger we modestly call a single. And Wendy's single has more beef than the Whopper or Big Mac. At Wendy's, you get more beef and less bun.
Hey, where's the beef? I don't think there's anybody back there.
You want something better. You're Wendy's kind of people.
Well, it's early February, and you know what that means. If you're a guy in a relationship, it's time for another bit of desperate shopping and suddenly realizing, how many days until Valentine's Day? What was I supposed to do reservation? And all of that frustration. I am not as Mickey. I am not as vehemently anti-Valentine's Day as I am, say, anti-New Year's Day. But I have some gripes, and I'm curious about your thoughts on the holiday, or whether it needs to be eradicated from the calendar.
No, I don't think it needs to be eradicated from the calendar. I do think that it's one of those days that, let's face it, if you're a woman, the most important thing is to make sure that you get flowers at the office that day.
Okay.
So men, if you're listening, beyond that, that's what you need to do. Make sure that your woman gets some flowers, and better if they're better than other people in the office. Even better. But the rest of it is like, it's one of those things where it's not a bad idea to take a day aside and say, you're the most important person to me, or you're special to me, or, I still love you like I once did. However, what's happened is much like you complained about with New Year's. A similar thing has happened with Valentine's Day, only this involves presents. So you have to have presents. You have to have dinner. And or plans of some kind, I should say. And therein lies the stress. Because there's all this pressure. Everybody's going for that one day. And on top of it, we add this could be the day he proposes to me.
Yes.
This is why men hate this holiday.
Well, okay, so here are my three big gripes, and this is necessarily the perspective of a guy who's been married and been in a relationship for quite some time. First of all, the holiday really needs to be on a Saturday. Okay, move it to a Saturday, because here's the thing. Because the idea is, this year it's actually on a weekend, and it turns out just fine.
It is, yes.
But the idea of when it's on a Tuesday or a Wednesday. Well, are you going out on a work night? Or are you going to,
You have to get a sitter. You're going to have a night out. Yes. It kind of...
Even if you don't have kids, the simple matter of going out, getting the reservation, it's very disruptive to a non-social night schedule.
Right. Do you and Mrs. Campaign Spot have like a set, like we do Valentine's Day the Saturday after Valentine's Day, or the Friday after Valentine's Day?
We will probably do a little thing on the day of it, and then probably just, get the sitter, go out and have a nice night, either the weekend before or the weekend afterwards. But here's the thing, even when you go out on Valentine's Day, it's a bit like New Year's Day. And
we don't go out, by the way.
I was going to say.
And that's my choice.
No, restaurants have their special menus and all that stuff, which generally is a bad deal. And generally is like, wait a minute, I came to this restaurant because I like what you normally have. And now
you're talking about like the chef's menu, where it's a set menu and it's like $25 a head, but you get 4 courses. Well, I mean, and again, they're already starting the ads for it. And so boys, get your reservations now. Do not wait. Do not hesitate, because that's one of those things that has to happen. But again, it's a lot of self-pressure. I think a lot of people hate this holiday, both single and married, and those that are dating and any other form of relationship. I think that a lot of people find this to be overrated. I think a lot of people see it as the end of the emotional terrorism holidays. Because, you know, really, after this, we get into Easter and you know, Labor Day. It's not nearly as much like, hey, maybe he'll propose on Easter. Well, maybe he'll propose on Memorial Day.
I'm going to observe that the IRA did have a pretty good claim to St. Patrick's Day. So, all right, when you say an emotional terrorism holiday, Nikki, what precisely do you mean by that? Because